Hi guys! So I am in Mystery City number 6, and if you don't know what Mystery Cities are, it's this thing where I'm going around for my dental school interviews, a total of 7 dental school interviews, and I'm sharing with you my experience throughout the interviews. Don't worry, this is not the video for Mystery City number 6. You can go check that out somewhere else, and I'll post the link. But I thought that since I'm here and I don't have as much to do, I would post a video for you guys about how I went around getting my letters of recommendation. And maybe it will help you and give you some courage. So one of the things that I recommend first is, it might sound cheesy, but being the best student and person you can be even when no one is watching. Your letter of recommendation can come from someone you don't expect. I went on a mission trip, and on that mission trip, I did a lot of amazing things, but I also stood up for what was right when I noticed that something wasn't being done 100% correctly. So that took a lot of courage on my part, and after I said something, I was kind of, just feeling empowered, and it was great. And the trip was consisting of dental students, dentists who brought along their children who were thinking about dentistry, and oral surgeons, as well as other doctors. What happened was, long story short, at the end of the trip, one of the oral surgeons came up to me and told me that I had done such a great job and that he appreciated how I stood up, and that if I ever wanted a letter of recommendation, that he would be happy to write one for me. I didn't even have to ask. That was one of the most magical moments in my life. Like, that was a moment when I realized, this is something that people can generally see about me, that I'm passionate about a dentistry and I'm passionate about helping others. I didn't have to ask for that one. And that was before I had even asked for any letters. So that one kind of jump-started me and gave me like a lot of courage, not only in asking for letters, but my career. So that was my first positive experience. And then I just started becoming the best possible student I could be. I started being involved, and not just for the sake of being involved or for getting a letter, but I started being involved with things that I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed helping others reach their goals in school. I was tutoring. I was working closely with professors that I liked. If you work with professors you like, you will get so much more out of it. Find professors who share an interest. I talked to professors who were interested in educating kids and getting them past, a lot of obstacles, because I'm a student and a person who's overcome a lot of obstacles. I spoke to professors that, even though I hadn't done research, I enjoy reading research papers. I just do. So I would go into my professors' offices and I would discuss research papers with them. So one way that I would recommend for you guys to start out, number one, go to past professors who you've had the most connection with. And how do you form those connections? From the beginning, from the minute that you're a freshman. You never know when it's going to start. So go into an office every single week, whether it is for help or whether it's to just ask questions about something that you may be interested in that pertains to the class. Start forming those relationships, because to me, to this day, I'm still shocked as to how people go up to professors and ask them for a letter of recommendation, but yet they've never had a conversation with them, even if you have an amazing grade in their class. And the thing is, the professor will write it if you have a good grade, if it's like a normal professor, but I still don't know what that letter sounds like if they don't have that personal connection with you. So out of genuine interest, go into their offices every week for your benefit as a student, so that you're getting help that you need or clarification on topics. You're paying a ton of money for a class. Use that very private time to go a step further. And then also, you're at the college level undergrad, but don't knock yourself down. Use that time to go deeper, become a better scholar, and teachers will notice that. If you genuinely want that kind of response and relationship from your professor, they're willing to give it to you. I mean, you have no idea how many times I've been able to walk into like empty office hours, which blows my mind. Next, make sure that wherever you're working at or you're volunteering at, that you're making a good impression. Be early or be on time. Don't be late. Let people know when you're not going to show up. Nothing drives me crazier than when people do not show up to events. So, for example, it's impossible for you to get this amazing glowing recommendation from a place if you're always letting them down. If you have a valid reason, let them know. Like, if you're noticing the pattern here, the trick to getting a letter is to just being dedicated, showing genuine passion, and for having continuity. And that's what's important, right? Continuity in your studies, in your volunteering, in your work, forming those habits. So I went to a public school, a really large public school, and I went to 2 different ones. How do you make those schools smaller? The amazing part of a science curriculum is that you can. Those office hours are important, and there are study groups, and there are people that you get to know. You need to take that first step, and you need to get to know your professor. I promise you, there are not enough students going to see those professors. If you are the one that's going to take that first step, you're going to have time in those office hours. You're going to have the ability to speak to those professors, and at the end of the day, when it's time for you to actually go and request a recommendation letter, guess who they're going to remember? The kid that got an A. And maybe you didn't even get an A, you got a B. But you were the kid in their office all the time. You were the kid that had the opportunity to eventually introduce your personal life to the professor. I mean, it makes all of the difference. So please start doing that from the beginning. Just remember that you have something special to offer. I wanted to also say one thing. A lot of times a professor will try to discourage you. And this personally did not happen to me, but it's happened to people that I know, and it's incredible. This is why you ask for letters early. I asked for my letters like 6 months in advance to a year in advance for professors, because professors are busy, especially if they have research. If professors have enough time and you give them a deadline, I suggest telling them an earlier deadline. I would tell my professors, I need it by April, but the application opens in June. So always make sure give an earlier deadline, and then kindly check in on them, right? And then when the time comes, you can give them a little gift and a thank you note that's very personal. Don't just be like, thank you for your recommendation. Write something that really meant something to you. Like for me, it really meant a lot that those professors were taking time out of their day, which they're getting paid for, to write me a letter of recommendation. Like, that's the nicest thing that anybody could do. So I made sure to give them a thoughtful gift, and to show them my appreciation, and to write them a thank you note to say thank you so much for actually believing in me, because that's what they're doing. They're believing in you. They're putting their name out there, their signature, their position, everything, vouching for you. That's pretty important, right? So I recommend doing it like that. Every day into the office. Well, not every day. Don't drive them crazy. Every week. And eventually it's going to be like second nature to you. All it takes is doing it for one professor, and then the other ones will come easier. Okay, so it's all about courage, right? You want to be a dentist, and then the whole application process takes courage. So if you can do this, it's a good first step, right? But like I was saying, I had some friends who, when they went to ask professors and they didn't ask early enough, they either told them things like, yeah, I'll get it to you, and then they didn't get it to them, or yes, I'll get it to you, but really I don't know how far you're gonna get in dentistry, things like that. So, let me talk about that. If somebody, and I see this on SDN all the time, if somebody isn't sure about your abilities, do not get that letter. Do not, for all of the world. Find another option, write that letter. So sometimes maybe it's important to ask the professor, would you be willing to write me a strong letter of recommendation? That way they know you mean business. Not any sort of type of a strong letter of recommendation. And I know that seems silly, but I think it's like code for a lot of professors, letting them know, hey, do you believe in me or not? Feel free to say yes or no. This way they have an out, right? They can say, you know what, I know you're looking for a strong letter of recommendation. I'm so busy right now. They don't have to tell you that they don't think that you're not good enough, right? But on SDN, I see this all the time, and I've actually had people around me that this has happened to, where somebody says, hey, I don't really feel like you're cut out for this. And you know what? This person that I'm talking about now actually has 2 dental school interviews and she's fine. So I really think that you should definitely check first and make sure that they're giving you the right vibes. What do you bring when you request letters of recommendation? Make sure to bring a resume. Make sure to bring your personal statement if you have it done. Oh, I really, really recommend that. If you have your personal statement done, that's a really nice touch. Make sure you bring your transcript. If they can't access it, they usually can, but if you want to make their lives easier, just put your transcript in there for them. I mean, if they wanted to, they can. So if you have a blemish, don't worry about it, or explain it to them, or maybe even write a personalized letter to them about that situation. So that's what I recommend you bring when you request it. Make sure you give it to them in a nice file that they can't lose. Staple anything that's important. Include any little pictures if you want to validate your stuff. It's going to make all the difference. For people that I couldn't hand deliver my stuff, I made a little slideshow of pictures for them so that they could see it. So, you know, there's ways to go about it, but make a very good first impression. Make sure you have stuff to add credibility to yourself and give them all the tools that you can possibly give so that they can write you the best possible letter of recommendation. Don't leave them guessing. Don't let them, take your word for it. Make sure they know. So I hope you take all of these tips. I know a lot of it is common sense, but you would be surprised. Sometimes we just need someone to guide us and tell us like exactly how they did it, and maybe that inspires you. Maybe you can take a little bit of how I did my stuff and incorporate it into how you're thinking of doing your stuff. I heard a lot of advice from people as I was going to apply, and I never used just one person's. I kind of bunch stuff together and then I made my own stuff. So hopefully some of you will enjoy this like that. If you have any questions about how to best ask for a recommendation or what your resume should have on it or what your personal statement should look like, what should be in it, or should you edit it to request letters of recommendation, anything like that, feel free to ask me and I'd be so happy to help because I have a gap year and I would love to help you guys. But yes, if you like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. There are new Mystery City videos up if you want to see where I'm going around before December 1st hits and I finally reveal which schools these were and the ranking and where I possibly got in and all of the dirty little details that I am going to reveal that I couldn't reveal while I was going through the interview process. Anyway, that's all for today. I will see you guys next time.